Today, we're going to talk about how to achieve the success that you deserve that goes beyond the formulas and the haircuts that you learned in school. Hi, I am Kayla Swanson, and I am your host of the Profitable Salon Owner podcast. And this episode is brought to you by Salon Skill, the ultimate salon back bar management app built by salon owners for salon owners. Salon Skill is designed to turn your salon back bar into a profit center, manage back bar formulas, product cost, and inventory. Click the link to get 10% off your annual subscription. Today, I have brought back Carla Unger. A couple months ago, no, just kidding, last month, Carla came onto the podcast and she talked about EFT tapping. And we did this beautiful podcast where we walked through how to do it, what it looks like. And it was such a fun conversation. Carla and I got talking after and going deeper into the science of the way that we interact with people, what comes into play in our minds, and how to go a little bit deeper. So if you're in for a wild ride today, we're going to go a little deeper into the science behind what we tell ourselves and what we believe about ourselves and how that affects the way that we interact with people. So welcome back, Carla. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so good. Thank you for having me back again, Kayla. I'm so excited about this conversation that we're about to have.
Oh, me too. Me too. So Carla and I got talking after the last one and it was just so beautiful. And I'm like, man, we've got to share this part of it, but it's definitely a little bit deeper into it. And so if you missed the first episode, it's okay. You can still listen to this episode, but I would highly encourage you to go back and catch the last episode that we talked about EFT tapping. But Carla, today we're going to talk about the 3 distinct pillars that can kind of start to block us from the success that we deserve. And so as we start to dive into it, I want you to tell me a little bit about, before we kind of dive in, tell me about how you started to do this work and where this information is kind of coming from for you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So following my EFT journey, so I am a stylist behind the chair of 30 years, and I currently still work in the salon. I discovered a modality called EFT tapping that brought me into my journey of further understanding how we think and feel is a very huge pillar of what we bring to the table as stylists and as people. And I was going through a really difficult time. I was going through a divorce, and I also was leaving my current salon and starting my own business. And I knew that what I was doing behind the chair as a stylist, which you're constantly having conversation and you're listening to all these things that they're bringing into your space, I knew that I needed to be able to manage how I was showing up in that world behind the chair and how it was affecting me personally. And I needed to understand the whys behind everything. I'm a very curious person. And so I started to dive into searching into different coaching certifications and different modalities, which is where I discovered EFT, and just getting yoga incorporated into my grounding practice. And then all of a sudden, I came across a beautiful certification in coaching that allowed me to discover that there are indeed 11 pillars that keep us stuck, that if we could just understand and become aware, once all of those 11 pillars come into play together, the world is, it's the cliche, the world is your oyster. And we can manifest and choose how we want to show up in our business for ourselves and for those that sit in our chair, and shift drastically without having to go back and getting more education and how to do a formula and being the best that we can be from this perspective of hairstyling, but being the best that we can be within ourselves. You guys, I can't even tell you the transformation that can happen in your business when we do create that awareness.
Wow. I love it. And I love the idea of today we're bringing a topic where like, yeah, there's a million business tips and there's so many things out there of like how to run your business better and how to have excellent customer service and how to do the hottest trend of haircut and how to do all these things that are definitely going to grow your success. But I do think that a very vital part of growing as a successful person is growing within yourself. And we've talked about it in multiple episodes of talking about growing you and you growing in your awareness of yourself and your awareness of how you interact with others. And to start to bring that awareness will just help you see the world differently. And I love, Carla, you just said the world is your oyster in terms of the way that you interact with your world is something that you have more control of. Because in a world where we really cannot control anything, you can't control what happens to you. you can't control circumstances. You cannot control it, but you can control your reaction to it. I know my coworker, Samantha, she always says, I can't control my first thought, but I can control my second. So if thought comes into your brain and you're just like, oh, what do I do with this? And you can't control when it pops in there, but you can control what you do with it and what you think next, which I love. And I live by that a lot during the day. So if you're ready to roll up your sleeves and get a little deeper today, we're going to bring some awareness and teach you and help you support you in how to bring that awareness to yourself. So first, I think the first part is understanding what starts to happen as you're working. Carla, what starts to happen in your body? What are some scenarios or some things that we can start to show how we start to even start bringing that awareness to? What starts there?
Well, I definitely usually coach my clients in the fact that we need to pause and take a moment and understand that there are things that are being given to us as information. So if we have an ache in our body, or someone responds or reacts to us in a certain way that we didn't expect, or we receive information from a client, this is simply information being given to us.
Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. Use promo code HPSA for your first 2 months free. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
We're Forest, born on the salon floor and built for and by hair and beauty professionals like you. Forest is your marketing, your reporting, your reputation management. You need one easy-to-use system that does it all. Forest, together we grow.
Are you tired of not knowing what your hair color is costing you? With Salon Scale, we take the guesswork out for you, so you can cover your back bar expenses, reduce your color waste, and generate more profit in your salon. Click the link in the description to get 10% off your first year.
So the key is to pause and to create awareness that that's exactly what it is. We often think that the world does something to us. This happened to me. This person said and did this to me. I wish it would be as simple as that, but it isn't. How we think and feel creates an action in us that the world responds to. So we often think that the world does this to us, therefore I am. No, unfortunately, it's therefore I am is how the world chooses to respond. So with that awareness, and it's hard, you guys, I'm not saying that this is easy because none of us really want to own how we show up behind the chair or in the back room or at home, because we often are strapped with guilt or shame. Shame, I'm sorry for who I am. Guilt, I'm sorry for what I did. But if we can create some gentleness around that way of thinking and start to achieve a deep, deep knowledge that we are made exactly how we were created to be, and own that beautiful gift of what you bring to the world, because nobody else is made like you, and to trust that inner voice within ourselves, can you imagine how that energetically would trickle out into the rest of the world? It's so powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And we can change what we bring in financially. We can change what we bring in within knowledge. We can change how we show up for ourselves and for everyone around us. And really, I know it's cliche, but really we can create a better world around us. We absolutely can.
I love what you're saying, and how, like, not only is it going to help you at work, but it, like, how much beautiful is it to be able to touch every part of your life. It can touch you at work, you as a mom, as a daughter, as a sister, you know, as a brother, as a husband. When, you know, wherever you're at, it could really start to affect your life in how you interact with everything. When you're driving down the road and, you know, if you have road rage, whatever it is for you, if you think for a minute of, like, what is a big thing in your life that really holds you back? They're like, man, like, I have really bad anxiety, or I have really bad, wherever it is for you, and the way that you interact, and maybe it's already popping up in your mind, like, yeah, that's my thing that I do, that's my default way of being, or that's like what I turn to when things start to go wrong. When you're think about those things in yourself, as Carla's going to start sharing how to navigate through that and how to start to shift your mindset. Think about your thing and how it can apply to what's real for you, so you can start to play along, or not play along, but start to follow along in a way that it affects you.
That awareness piece is a big one, because we often think we go to hair school, we learn all the things, we get to create all day, we get to interact with people, and that's kind of the end of our job. And in many ways, that is a big portion of our job. But self-care, and now that's been a term that's been, generalized so much, looks like a whole bunch of different things. For me, when I think of the ultimate self-care, is the gentleness piece that I have to offer myself every time that I'm faced with something that I'm unsure about and uncomfortable in. And changing our default pattern, as you mentioned, how we fall into those default ways, is very uncomfortable. It feels really, really gross, and fear can overtake us. So anxiety sets in, depression when we're looking at the past and kind of realizing, oh, but I should have, I could have, I would have.
Haunts you.
Constantly doing that. Or anxiety, I'm afraid, what's going to happen, what's happening, what can I do to make that not happen again? And we function out of a place of fear. That's where ego loves to live. And so I always, when I talk to my clients, in the course that I facilitate, we talk a lot about understanding ego mind versus right mind. Now, of course, for some people, this might be like, well, what am I listening to? This sounds so crazy. But we are three-dimensional beings. So when we can't live in both right mind and ego mind, when I say that, it is the place where most of us live a lot. We are, we're self-preserving. It's a selfish space. It can look really good. Like, you can do all the right things in ego mind. You can love people. You can do all those beautiful things. But a lot of times, and most of the time, and all the time, I'm going to say, it is fear-based. You are reacting and responding out of fear of something happening to you. When we can shift from a place where we are more connected within ourselves, the opposite of fear is love. And, we can use that cliche again, love conquers all. But when we can truly get to a space where we love ourselves deeply, and I often compare it to that ferocious bear, mama bear. I mean, you guys are in California, wherever you are in the world, you will understand that if you run into a bear with her cubs, you're not sticking around.
No, get out of there.
You're going. You're moving, because you know that the outcome for you is going to be very, very bad.
Yeah.
So imagine honing in as a mama bear would. Her only focus is to protect her bear cubs. That's it. She's honing in on that love for her bears. Imagine taking that kind of a mentality and turning it towards self, where external judgment doesn't exist, where you can step within and love yourself so ferociously. I call it ruthless compassion. Because what that does is it enables us to then give out that same thing for other people.
Wow.
Wayne Dyer said, if it's not in here to give, then you can't give it away. So imagine now loving yourself so deeply and so purely, and being so comfortable with who you are, and stepping into your business behind the chair. Think about what that could look like. Think about the abundance that would come constantly if you're putting that kind of an energetic feel out there.
Wow.
It's
That's beautiful.
life-changing.
I think that if you're listening to this and that's starting to be like, yeah, I like that. Hopefully you're already imagining what that could look like for you, and you're starting to connect in the ways that would really affect you specifically. And I would love for you to take that moment of like just pause and think about what that could look like for you and the things that have happened recently in your life, maybe something today, maybe something's already on your mind of the past or the future that you're starting to be like, yeah, this is the thing maybe you're on your drive to work and you're listening to us in your car and you're already anxious about something that's going to happen today or something that happened yesterday or wherever you're at. Start to think about like, what could it look different if that wasn't there, or you had the tools that you needed to be able to work through when those things come up, because it's not really like, things are going to come up. You can't just like omit like, anxiety or fear. It's like that stuff still is going to exist.
100%.
But how cool would it be to then gain the tools to be able to work through that? So Carla, let's
Mm-hmm.
start to talk about what tools can come to start to play into play, or like what actually, before we go into tools, what is the consequence, maybe I'm trying to find the word of what's the other side of this? Like how does the world kind of play out if you don't start to take this awareness in? Because I know we talked about before, we were talking about, the way that we portray onto others and how they see us. So I'd love for you to share that piece.
Well, that's a beautiful question, Kayla, because it will show up in many, many different ways, as we know. When we're going to talk about 3 of the 11 pillars that we'll chat about, energetically, when we talk about energy, I'm not talking about woo-woo energy. I'm literally talking about the energetic fields of how the atoms are moving in our body. So we have now learned. So when I went to school, we understood that we were primarily matter. So 99.9999999% matter, 0.0000 blah 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 1% energy. And energy meaning protons, electrons, and neutrons. I'm literally talking science here. We have now learned through the amazing technology that science has provided us that we are primarily energy. So atoms are moving within us, within anything. Piece of paper is vibrationally moving throughout the earth. So when people say that we're connected, we literally are connected energetically with the science of how atoms move. 1 minute they're showing up and they're clumped together in our body. The next minute they're dispersed. The next minute they're gone. So that's the energy of the flow that happens within our system. And when we talked about EFT in our last our last time together, we were talking about disrupting that energy so that we can bring the body to a place of calm, so that we can have the opportunity to think in a different way. I know that feels really impossible, and you're thinking, man, I am so stuck. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. But simply understanding how energy works, understanding the emotion and the thought. And as we were talking earlier, the thought piece is a pretty hard one. There's some people that are really connected to their thoughts and they understand exactly what they're saying. In my work, I have found that most creative people struggle with that part. They understand how they feel. It's going to show up in our body somehow. You're going to have a neck ache. You're going to have a shoulder ache. Your hips are going to hurt. This is information for us, how it will show up if we don't start to dive into this internal work. Disease comes into play. We end up with things in our body that is telling us, I'm stressed out. Please hear me. Headaches, shoulder pain, all of those things. So those are some of the things that the world, and how people treat us, that is also information for us.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. So now let's start to dive into the tools and the things. So I'd love to get into these 3 distinct pillars that we're going to talk. So again, there's 11 of them. Today we're going to go through 3 of them.
Yes.
So Carla, what are some of, let's start with number 1. So what are some of these pillars that people can start to kind of bring awareness to?
Yes. So of course, the first one is the somatic exhaustion. So the somatic being the body giving us information that it's hurting, it's showing up in our gut system. I don't know how many of you guys suffer with gut intestinal issues. We know the mind-gut connection is a very, very powerful one. The way we eat in our day, take a moment. It might cost you, 15 minutes of your time, but take a moment to sit and actually eat something. That is huge in our industry. We don't take that time. Time is money. I would encourage you to shift that. You'll make your money. I promise you. This stuff all shifts. So the somatic healing, what would it feel like if my body didn't hurt every day? What would it feel like if, my gut system was working the way I need it to? What would it look like if I felt seen and validated as a human being in my job and with my clients? So bringing that attention within, what does my body need right now? Maybe it needs 15 minutes of a yoga stretch. Maybe it needs 15 minutes to sit down and meditate so that I can just give it space to relax. Maybe it needs 15 minutes of EFT tapping. What would that look like? And how do I want to feel? We never ask ourselves that. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
We wish.
As you said that, I was like, wow, what a powerful question to ask yourself.
Absolutely. We don't ask ourselves that because a lot of times we have a very undeserving mentality. Well, this is my lot. This is what I was dealt.
I just have to deal with it. People have it worse.
People have it worse. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Or they stay in victim mode of themselves. Oh, this is just the way it is. I can't change it.
Yeah.
I'm here to say you can absolutely transform how you show up in your world. So the somatic is a big one. And I call it the 3 secrets of the C. CEE, the vision of what we can see. The second one, of course, is emotional. The emotional wheel. We talked about that in our other podcast. It is important to identify correctly what we are feeling so that we can also then pair and understand that thinking piece. And bringing that, can I name the emotion? Can I just be with it for a minute? Oftentimes we are afraid of hard emotions. So as we think and feel, we can sit in it for a hot minute. We know, and I said this earlier, we know that emotions are like an ebb and flow. Sometimes how we think and feel in that moment isn't actually what's happening. That's a tough one. How that person spoke to me maybe isn't about me. My mentor always used to say that to me. It's not about you, Carla. It's not about you. Until someone says it is, until they approach me and have a confrontation, I just assume that nothing is about me.
Wow, what a freeing way to think. If you just walk around in the world thinking nothing's about you, it really is. It detaches you from the reactions of others. Because just as much as you have these reactions and feelings and emotions and thoughts and all these things, so are everybody else around you in their own world and in their own way. They're having the same exact thing, and you, in their reaction and your reaction and their way of being, your way of being, they're in play together. And so when people, even if people direct their energy at you and they're coming at you with something, unless you have done something, but I can almost guarantee it really is nothing about you. And it's just the way that they're reacting to something. Even if you did something, it's their reaction to something that you did that's triggering something in them. That then they're attacking you with it. Because it's so much easier when you're feeling a really big emotion to blame somebody else or to point fingers because you're not sure quite yet how to deal with it in your own self. And so then you just point at and direct it. Like, I'm feeling this way, but I don't know how to feel this way. So I'm going to make you feel this way so I don't have to feel this way anymore and make it your fault.
Boom. Powerful. And then that's where like all the existing of the energy within a salon can get really, really messy.
Yeah.
And there can be some really hard feelings that happen between your coworkers and yourself or a client or whatever. And it can create a really bad taste in your business as well. So we have to be really, really careful. That was beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Especially with your chairs so close together. I mean, like, not only are you working with your client and yourself, but like your coworkers next to you with their people, and like you're like what you said earlier, how like, we are made up of so much energy and we are interacting. We're all in one room together and the energy is happening. Not only that, but like the energy of the lights and the water running and all that stuff, like energy is pulsating throughout, and we're all connected and it all affects you. And I love what you said.
Yeah, that is beautifully. I love that. And then the third pillar we talk about, of course, is the energetic exhaustion of what you just talked about. And the energy exhaustion can look like a lot of things. But the best part about it is we can take that energy and manifest what we want. So this is where, and we talk about the magic of how transformation happens, is it is our choice to sit here and sit in fear and vibrate with low vibration emotions, or we can shift into love and choose those emotions we want. I want to feel confident in my business. I want to be an expert in what I do. I want to experience abundance in what I offer my clientele, whether that's financially or knowledge or having the understanding that when they are speaking, I don't always have to offer my advice. I can sit and be quiet and listen and hold that space for them. Because again, it's not about me. I can share my hardships. Some of my clients have been one of my best supports when I was going through my hard time.
Ready to transform your business and improve your salon's profitability? With Lonza's 3-in-1 technology and intermixable shades, your hair color inventory is streamlined with limitless creativity behind the chair. Click the link below to unveil the secret to salon success.
Sustain Beauty Co. has 2 of the best tools to help you save water, time, and a bunch of money. Join the clean water salon movement with EcoHead's water-saving shampoo nozzles and scrummy plant-based microfiber towels. Available at sustainbeauty.co.
So there's that exchange of friendship and love. But when we can exchange that energetic low vibration and understanding that we are there and redirect for what we want and surrender to that place, wow, things just come our way. And I'm sure right now you're going, oh yeah, I remember that I wanted this and this, and then it just happened. I'm sure there's many of you out there that have that experience that you can think about right now where that has been a thing. Or if you haven't had that side of the experience, you're thinking of, ooh, but I remember feeling this way and this way and this way, and this negative energy thing happened to me, and this happened to me.
Yeah. I can think of a day just last week where I was like, came in and I had such a great day, so high energy. And I was like, man, and I've been kind of like ebb and flow lately. There's been a lot of things going on. And I remember coming in the office and being like, I'm gonna have a great day today. And I felt really great. And then something happened and it took the wind out of my sails. And I was just like, how did I come in so on top of the world? And now I feel at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how now that I processed through what happened, it was like, yeah, it just because of the way that it triggered me and the way that it interacted with me and the way that I let it consume me, it just took me out. It took me like for a hot minute. I had to go on a walk and like clear my head and be like, okay, whoa, I went from like on top of the world to really, really low. And it's so interesting how instantaneous it can be when the right things, even if you're doing this work, even if you're like, you know, becoming aware. And I'm so excited to have you back on because this is something I'm really personally passionate about being aware of myself and the way that I interact with others and the way I receive things and the energy I put out and the energy I get back.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in doing that, there's still going to be times in your life when something takes you out and something like just really drops you low or just like hits you. And it's about like, again, going back to what we said earlier. And then what do you do with those emotions and those thoughts and feelings and how do you start to transform them and be allowed and hold the space that it's okay. Nothing's wrong with the feelings. Nothing's wrong here.
Yeah.
The negative feeling comes in or somebody, you know, your coworker comes in the break room and they start going off on you. You're just like, instead of being like, you have a choice to sit and be like, okay, like they're really upset, they're really agitated, and start taking like almost get factual. Take in like, okay, they're really upset about something. They think I did something, and start to get factual about what's happening and almost remove yourself from that emotion so you can intake it more like level-headedly. Like, okay, well, it's not about me. I'm going to let them, you know, I'm going to be here and be present and start to process as it goes through. And it's almost like a bird eye view of like looking down into it rather than being immersed into it and letting it letting it take you. You're like almost like observing it from a bird's eye view. Like, this is what's happening.
That was beautiful. I'm so glad you said all those things, Kayla, because I was going, okay, it's that I was saying the exact same thing in my head. And it is, we do need to become the observer of what is surrounding us. And that's where I say we become from an unconscious hairstylist to the conscious hairstylist.
Yeah. Yeah.
To understanding all the things that are going on and being able to decide how we're going to step into it from ourselves. But it has to start within. It has to start from inside the body. It has to start from inside the mind and what we are thinking and feeling about ourselves. It is the hardest and most beautiful work. And when you're on the other side of that bridge, think of it as a bridge, and it's unfinished, and you're stepping gentleness towards self. But when you're on the other side and you get to experience a whole new way of looking at the world, it's powerful and beautiful and transformative. And you will see it in every aspect of your life.
Yeah. I love that. When we started this podcast, I had talked about having like you earning the success that you deserve and more than the formulas and the haircuts. But I think that all that to say is like when you start to see the world differently, the success that can come with that, it's just a whole different layer, but it's more fulfilling success. You can start to see it, and it's almost like, well, you can get to the success, but even the way that you receive the success that you earn and give, it's like you've opened up more. You've opened up yourself. Like, because I know a lot of us have, like, I know I personally have like a blockage on money. Like I have a block around money. And because of that like mental block of like, I don't deserve it, or I'm not going to earn it, I'm never going to have the money that I need. Like I've created all that around in my head that I'm working through personally right now. And so when you have those blocks and you can't, then I won't make the money that I want to make, or I won't be successful in that way because I've blocked myself and I've told myself that I'm not going to make that money. And so I would let like this whole, I know that 30 minutes of an episode, it's a good place to start. So I hope that something in this episode really connected to you and your heart. And I love what you just said, going from the unconscious stylist to the conscious stylist. What a cool thing to say, because just being more conscious of the way that you interact and the way that things are happening within you. And so I know we had 30 minutes here to talk about, and so I hope you dive in and take this as your opportunity to start digging in more and start to connect more and find out things in your life where you dive into EFT tapping, or you just look into how to understand yourself more, because there's a lot out there and everybody's going to understand themselves differently through different outlets. And so there's a lot out there. Find the thing that connects the most to you and just start that awareness journey to become as aware as you possibly can about who you are and how you interact with the world. And I know for me, I love learning about my childhood and child development and all that stuff, because of how a lot of what happened to us when we were children and the way that we saw our world then plays into a part into how we are now. And so, Carla, I know that because we're kind of running out of time now. So what are some things as people listen to this episode? I know it was deep, so hope you're still with us. But if you what are some things as people are going to hopefully really connected with what we said today? What are some nuggets that we can send out with people to kind of go into the world, and where can they kind of start to import this work or apply this work to their life? There we go.
Yes, no, that's a great question. And there's so many different avenues that we could talk about again, on which way people can go. But the biggest thing, honestly, I would encourage everyone that is listening is to have the faith of the unknown. To step through what might feel really, really, really scary, and start to create a place where you are on that journey of fighting for who you are and what you deserve out of this world. You're not here by accident. So that can look like maybe checking in and having a conversation with a therapist. It can look like starting to get some books that are really good, like Brene Brown, Mel Robbins. There's so many great authors out there that you can start listening to if you have Audible, or if you're a book reader, read it. Listening to podcasts like this and others that might support something that you're feeling that you might resonate with. Working with someone like myself in wanting to understand all of those kind of 11 modules and kind of going, yeah, I kind of want to dig into this really deeply, and taking that journey. There's so many different avenues, but just take the step. Just believe enough in the little bit of you being someone who is deserves to be loved, deserves to be honored, and just take a step.
I love that. Because unfortunately, there's nobody in your life who's going to take that step for you, who can take that step for you. There's nobody who can love you or create the safe space that you need in order to grow past those things than you. And you have to create that for yourself and want it enough to even just, like Carla said, take that step forward and what it looks like for you. You can listen to this episode, put it down and walk away. And that's a choice. Again, going back to we can make those choices. You can make a choice in what you do. And always love bringing in, we talk a lot about business and a lot about growing your salon, things like that. But sometimes it's nice to come into these kinds of conversations, get a little bit deeper, because growing as a human being in yourself, that awareness is a huge vital part of your success. So I hope you got a lot out of this episode. Carla, thank you so much for joining me for a second time.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Love having you on.
Every minute of it.
Yeah, me too. I know we talked about man, we could just go on for hours and hours. So we're going to go jump on another channel and just talk for hours. You want to join us over there? I'm just kidding. So thank you, Carla, for having these conversations. I know we crammed a lot into 30 minutes, but we hope you got a lot out of it. And we'll see you next time on the Profitable Salon Owner podcast. Thanks for hanging out.
Amazing. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Profitable Salon Owner podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review, and check us out at profitablesalon.com for more episodes, content, and to help you turn your salon into the business you've always dreamt of.